Welcome, Lawrence.
Hello again, Jenny.
Yes. Have you had a busy day today?
I have, yeah. Been internal audits today. So, as we will be discussing in a bit, very important. So, been a busy one for me, but we're looking forward to the long weekend. So,
oh my goodness.
It'll all be worth it.
Yes, absolutely. It's Easter weekend. Yes. So anyhow, welcome to the ISO for Growth podcast. I'll apologise in advance for my croaky voice, especially to our listeners and those joining us.
It sounds lovely for now, Jenny.
Does
it depends how much we talk.
I know. Well, there is that, yes, and hopefully it won't get any croaky. But I've got my water, so
I will waffle like you.
And you do the waffling, and I will just listen and smile at you.
That's fine.
So yes,
we've got a bit of history included today. We've got a little history story.
So loving it.
We'll go places.
I'm loving it already. So, Lauren, we're now coming to the final elements of 9001.
Yes.
And so we've covered clauses 4 to 7.
We have,
yes. Yeah. And that was over 2 separate podcasts. For those listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube, they can go back and recap on those really important elements.
They can, yep.
And so today we're going to look at clauses 8 to 10, which is the final elements of ISO 9001. Woohoo, we're nearly there. You're thinking,
it's sad. We don't want it to come to an end. There were 20 clauses, Jenny.
He says through gritted teeth. So we're not going to go into any great detail with clause 8.
Understood.
Because, it's so... It's so different to each industry, and what we don't want to do is really bombard our listeners or confuse them. So clause 8 really is the functional part of your ISO system. It's around how you develop and design your service, how you deliver your service, and those key areas.
It almost warrants its own podcast just for that, doesn't it? Because it covers so many things, and every business is so different. A software developer to a baker to a plumber to a manufacturer, it would be totally different for everybody.
It would.
So I suppose to, like you say, keep it accessible for our listeners is to make sure that we maybe give that the attention it deserves.
Absolutely.
But it's absolutely an important part of the standard. It's the kind of the how, and the bits we're looking at today are like the how well you do it. But the how is so different. We just can't fit it in.
No, we can't, no. And we don't want to bore anyone to death anyhow at the same time. No, well, I'd try not to. You wouldn't, but I might do. Yeah, so clause 8 really is around how you deliver your service. It's looking at from the inquiry stage and right through to delivery. And like you quite rightly say, it's so different to each industry.
Yeah.
That we'll just park it for now.
Put a pin in it and come back.
And we'll come back to it one day.
Yeah.
Whenever that is. So we're going to move on to clause 9. Yeah, and this is the monitoring, measurement and analysis element of the quality management system. So quality management system, we're looking at ISO 9001.
Yeah.
We cannot ignore what our clients and customers think about our products and services. We'd like to ignore, maybe not, who knows?
Some would, yeah.
So what kind of methods or approaches should we consider that will help us monitor and measure customer satisfaction?
Yeah, so I guess tying into what you're saying, that there's loads of ways you can measure quality as part of your system, aren't there? There might be speed of delivery, or there might be KPIs that are set, and they're all absolutely relevant and great, but the standard expects customer feedback as the focus. And we discussed that in clause 5 under leadership, customer focus. So this is the clause under clause 9.1.2, where we're talking about customer satisfaction. So every business, as we keep saying, is different. So what works for one may not work for another. As we work with different businesses, we realize that some will use a simple customer satisfaction survey, and they'll send them out en masse, and they might get one reply, they might get no replies, or they might get loads.
Yeah.
But it really depends on the business. And that works for people as a very simple tool. But there's lots of other ways they can do it. Sometimes there are NPS scores. They're a really good one. Larger organizations generally use them. There's simple ones like Google reviews. There's loads of platforms that give that. SurveyMonkey is one I've come across recently. Businesses are using that, get aggregated feedback on various metrics that they set. So the point is, it's a mechanism to go and speak to all your clients. What do they actually think? Not what do you think? Because all of your beautiful KPIs in your management system say, we're doing amazing, but actually your client might disagree. And have you asked them, are they happy? And that's really important that you go and ask them for their feedback.
You're absolutely spot on. You really are, because, over the years consulting myself, I used to come across clients who would say, well, everything's fine. They're still buying from me.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just a wrong way of thinking about that you are meeting customer requirements, because what I would often say, or have said, just because they're buying from you doesn't mean to say they're happy or satisfied with the product or service that you are offering. It might be just that I've just not got round to looking elsewhere. Just because they're quiet doesn't mean to say that they are happy. And so you're quite right. Asking the question,
And what if you were in a really niche industry where you're the only service offering?
Yeah.
People haven't got another choice. Does that mean they deserve the lowest service standards? No, you still should go and find out, how are we doing? It's a two-way street. You can't get better unless you ask the question.
And I think also with customer satisfaction, it's, yes, we all want positive feedback about what we deliver. But actually the not so positive feedback is equally as important, isn't it?
Definitely. And that will factor into some of the other sections we'll discuss about management reviews and internal audits, because that information, good or bad, it's information that can be used to make improvements.
Absolutely.
So if we're only looking for the good bits and forget everything else, we're not really doing what the standard's asking. And we're not benefiting our business either.
No, we're not, yeah. And remember, the quality management system does sit on continual improvement. And if we don't get, relevant feedback, whether it's good or bad, the bad in a sense should be really, really embraced, because that's where you can see the benefit of making those continual improvements.
And it tells you so much about your management system. If you keep getting the same complaints, why aren't you doing anything about it?
Yeah.
So if you sit down and you go, we keep getting the same issue, why is that? And you address it and you resolve it. That's what the management system is wanting us to do. So that's why it's so important. And obviously the customer feels heard. They appreciate that that engagement, which again, speaking to different clients, some have a real negative view of sending out anonymous feedback forms. Just say, fill that in when you get a moment. Real, meaningful engagement of whatever format or style that is. It could be just regular catch-up meetings and getting that personal touch. That is great. And if you can show that that's what you're doing, then that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And customers appreciate that.
Absolutely. And, be as creative as you possibly want to be. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You don't have to stick to the standard surveys, which
That's
is what we used to do back in, year dot.
Yeah.
Like you quite rightly, you're having a meeting, just, get something verbal and then make a note of it.
100%.
And that's absolutely fine, isn't it? So, yes, it can be quite a challenging area, let's face it, to get feedback.
It is.
But I think rather than always wait until the product has been delivered or the service has ended, gather it as you're going along.
Definitely.
And that makes it a lot easier, I would say.
Yeah. So very well said. And like we say, you can't always control what feedback you get, but just be as engaging as you can, as creative as you can, and that will always get the best results.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on to audits, which you've been auditing today, which you said.
That's right.
So auditing can be quite scary when somebody, when we're going into a business, and they can often, our clients can often panic a little bit because they don't know what to really expect. But auditing is a very important element. I mean, there's lots of important elements of 9001, but it really is a very, very important element of it. Other than that, what's the purpose of audit? Why do we audit then? What's the benefits of auditing?
Okay, I'm here to deliver my history lesson.
Oh, I love it.
Here it comes.
Loving it already.
I thought it would be good because you're absolutely right. We've all somebody says you're being audited, and it just puts fear in people's hearts.
Yes.
And since we do auditing and we do it regularly, we know that's not at all the setup we want. We don't want our clients, customers, people we're speaking to feel uncomfortable. So I did some research into the word audit.
Oh.
So apparently it comes from the Latin word audire, so audible. So it's about hearing, listening.
Oh,
so
nice.
Back in good old days, back in the times of medieval Europe, it said, nobles, merchants, kings, they might say, I want to hear about my accounts, and their servant would read them to the king, and he would listen and go, okay, sounds right. Yeah, okay, not quite right on that point. He was listening. So auditing is about listening. So I thought that helps us get a really good idea of the principle that behind a good auditor. They're not there to come and beat you with a big stick. They're not there to come and deliberately find faults just to kind of make themselves feel great. They're there to listen to you as the business and say, to tell me about what you do. Why do you do that? And you say you do this, but that might not quite. It's listening to them and finding out. And of course, there is a lot of engaging with evidence. It's a really important part. But underneath it, the way we would engage to start with is listening. And that's really what a good auditor should be, not striking fear into the hearts.
No.
Of course, maybe we've had audits where that's been our experience and it sticks with us, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
But a good auditor should be able to listen and engage. So going beyond that, and in terms of what the standard expects, when we audit, we're looking at the whole management system. So clearly a business can do all sorts of things, but it's only what's in the scope of our management system that we're looking at. So what are we looking at? Improvements, consistency, reducing risks. We're going to look at, are your processes working in a way that is what you said they are? It's all very well saying, well, that business does that, but does it do what you dictated it? Every business sets requirements of their own. It will have standards of ISO and it will have customer requirements. So is your management system meeting all those areas? Now, again, as we keep saying, every business is so different. When we audit, we've got to take time to understand what that business actually does, not what we think it does or think what it should do. We've got to look at what the requirements are based on, again, that business. Again, 9001 has explicit requirements. So there'll be areas such as their design process, their supplier management processes. Again, some of the processes that are bespoke to their business. And it's trying to understand, is it working the way you want it to?
Yeah.
And so as part of that process, the horror word of non-conformity gets raised and people go a bit, I don't know if I like that. And don't view it as a negative. A non-conformity is just a warning light, should we say, that says something's not working right here. Let's address it. So we always make sure we just dive a little bit deeper and try and figure out what's going underneath the surface. But if you embrace that auditing process, it helps your business by having somebody look at it with a fresh pair of eyes and go, okay, have you thought about this? And if we can get that in our minds rather than just let's lock all of the skeletons in the cupboard away and let's not talk about them, it really doesn't help doing that. So embrace it. That would be my feedback.
Yeah, that's a really good way of explaining that. Auditing really, as well as what you've said, is also about, we're not there to say that you're running your business incorrectly, because, when we go into a lot of our clients, in fact, probably all of our clients are very successful. They're doing very well. Yeah. And what we're doing is looking at the management system and looking at the business. And then, we talked about in the first podcast probably about the gap between it. And that's what really auditing is about as well. Yes, we're going into a lot more detail when we're actually auditing as opposed to doing a gap analysis. Yeah. But actually, we're just marrying up the two, the management system and the business. So there's nothing to be feared about us coming in. We just want to make sure that if there's anything missing or not so much missing in terms of internal auditing in a lot of cases, but actually, is it working well?
That's it. Is it effective? That's just the phrase in the standard use. Is it effective? Yeah. And let's face it, every business, we're all human as well. Mistakes get made. Things might get missed. Things might lapse. That's the point of the process, to catch them before they become significant problems. Yeah. And it's in that sense, it helps to be a proactive tool rather than a reactive tool. So that's why the standard expects us to be auditing on a regular basis, making sure we check certain things and make sure we resolve them. Yeah.
So I think one of the things in the standard, it doesn't clearly state how often one should audit. Yeah. So they can be audited in different ways. You can audit from an operational perspective, or you can audit from a clause-based perspective. You can audit just once a year. Yeah. You could audit every week if you wanted. I'm not sure why anyone would want to audit every week.
Quite a lot.
But it doesn't matter. It depends on your business and what fits well for you, really, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And another part of a good auditing system is having a plan. So having that schedule, like you say, for some that might work, breaking it up into tiny chunks. For others, and the way we generally work is doing it as an annual event. And it's good because you can, everybody that you need there, they're all committed. They're there for available to be interviewed, to speak to give you evidence. And it works for us like that. But every business is different, like we say. So a small business listening to this might think, oh, I couldn't do it on an annual, but I could do it in little chunks.
Yes,
that works for them.
Absolutely. That's what's really important. Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to move on to the management review. So again, another really important aspect. What are some of the agenda items we would include, and typically who should be part of the meeting?
Yeah.
That varies, doesn't it, from business to business, or it can do, can't it?
It does, because we work with businesses that there's just maybe 2 people, and some there might be 50 people, and some have boards of directors, and some have 1 director. So it always differs. But as we were talking about in the leadership clause under clause 5, management teams differ. And operationally, there may be a sales director that travels the world and he's never around. It might be really difficult to pin him down. The main point is getting that management team, the top management, available to sit down and review what the management system is doing.
And why do we need them there then, do you?
So obviously, as we said with the clause 5, with the commitment, showing that they're committed to the system. If you can't sit down once a year or quarterly or however often, at the very least, if you can't sit down then and sit down and give a meaningful bit of input, it doesn't show a great deal of commitment. And that's a fair comment. So that's why. And also because any discussions that happen without that leadership there to be able to implement and back any changes or any new initiatives, continual improvement efforts, if they're not there, it just becomes a discussion without any kind of teeth. And that's why we really have to have them there. So the standard, again, it would expect leadership to be present in whatever format that is for your business. Again, as a smaller business listening to this, that's hopefully not too complicated. And that will help businesses to kind of just understand that leadership input is pivotal. Yeah. And the clue's in the name, a management review meeting. So management just needs to give the rule to undertake any tweaks, any necessary things. So leading to the next point you asked about, what sort of things would we discuss? Internal and external audits are a big one. Those internal audits, we put all that hard work in, found all these findings. If they're never communicated back to the management team and discussed, they're not going to do much good. So that's a really key part. We'd look at any risks, opportunities, objectives. Again, we've discussed those previously. They need to be reviewed. Are they appropriate? Have we got new risks? Are those objectives still working? Those are all kind of key things that would always be discussed. And the standard does have expectations about exactly what. I'm trying to give a flavour of it here. So supplier performance, what we said is about improvement actions. We talk about a continual improvement. It's good for a management team to sit down and go, well, we've done really well in this area, but what are we going to continue to do well in? Yeah. Again, it links really closely to those objectives, doesn't it? So it's quite wide ranging, but businesses would follow a set agenda. They'd work through those items, not in a box ticking exercise, but it just helps them to have a structured review every quarter, year, how often they review it. And I think as well, what's interesting as we work with clients is that businesses work on a daily basis and have management meetings daily, weekly. They know what's going on. And it's helping auditors to take all that wealth of experience and knowledge and pour it into a meeting or however many meetings and go, okay, here's the fixed objective. Here's what we're doing. And it can be a challenge sometimes to get everybody together and they go, oh, we've already done this. But sitting down and really engaging with this process, it's beneficial for everybody. And it's helpful for auditors when they go in and can see a really meaningful management review. The set of minutes go great. They've discussed X, Y, and Z. Oh, and they've given consideration to all this rather than just giving it a thumbs up. So, yeah.
You're absolutely right. In terms of, so the management review, as you say in the title, it's a management review. So what we're doing in it is reviewing the whole entire management system, because it's really an ideal opportunity to see what's not working well and what changes we need to be making, where we need to be moving forward, where we need to be holding things back a little bit potentially. Just a general review of everything
Exactly.
that we've covered.
That's
so all the hard work that you've put in place, all those objectives and, the risks that you've identified and, the audits that have been carried out. Let's review. Where are we?
That's it. And if you're not sitting down to review it, all of that previous work becomes meaningless because you're not reviewing it.
Yeah,
You've got to analyse and evaluate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And so nearly at the end of this, so clause 10 focuses on improvement. So, we've been touching on the improvements. It's a continual improvement. The whole management system, it sits on that framework. We touched on non-conformity through identifying those typically through the internal audit.
That's right.
Sometimes external audits will come in and find some areas, but one of the things I just wanted to touch on for a non-conformity element is not about hitting someone over the head when something isn't quite working well at all. And I think, as consultants, I'd really like to remove that element of having teams feeling fearful that a process hasn't worked, or a product has been returned incorrectly for whatever reason. And then having that fear of, I don't want to share that, or I don't want to document that because someone will point the finger at me. And recording it isn't about finger pointing. It's really about identifying something that isn't working very well. And I think you've already touched on that.
Right,
It's not working very well. So let's put some measures in place to reduce.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think if you've got a leaky pipe and it's dripping on the floor, that's one that you can mop the spill up, but if you don't fix the pipe.
Exactly.
And that's what you're describing, isn't it? If somebody's made a mistake, it's to be expected. Things happen. Things need maintenance and tweaking. But once you've identified that non-conformity, and again, it might be based on a person, it might be based on equipment, it might be based on a process that isn't working. Again, it might be just an observation that somebody's made. But whatever it is, if you can sit down and look at it and go, it's not working. Why is it not working? Much better than, again, the big stick approach and making people be in fear of making mistakes. And it's not reasonable, is it?
It isn't. No, you're absolutely right. And then, that really does feed into then the continual improvement because, you've identified something's not working. You're going to put measures in place to fix it and you continue improving your business and the process.
And that's where I suppose when we're talking about this ISO for growth and the value that customers get from ISO, if you implement these systems and as a bureaucratic exercise, if you sort of think, well, it's another tool I can use to get people to do the right thing, of course it will help reduce mistakes and all those things. But if you can use it as a collaborative approach to get everybody within the business working together to the same objectives and goals, then that's really achieving the intent of the standard, isn't it? And that's where value comes because people are then working better, they're working more conscientiously, and then they can go, okay, we didn't do that right, but here's how we can improve.
Yeah, I really do think the ISO 9001, the quality management system, is a beautiful system. And I love it because it sits on the customer satisfaction, and ultimately that's what we're here to, we want to please our clients, our customers, both internally and externally. We've touched on the fact that internally, between departments, you are customers of each other. But it's such a, I think it's such a lovely system that you can grow with it, and you can be very creative in terms of how you meet the needs and expectations of your customers and clients, and the continual aspect of it. It's just, I think it's nice. Maybe
no,
it's sad.
I agree. No, and any management system can be dry and boring, and obviously it has to meet certain requirements, and there's a level of detail that should be there. But when it comes down to the heart of it, like you say, it's about people, it's about customers, it's about doing a good service. And that could be something as simple as a smile during your day. It could be, really customer facing things. And you don't want to lose that as part of your management system. Go back to the basics, the essentials, the things that really mean something to your client and figuring out what they need.
Absolutely. Ask questions.
Definitely.
So Lawrence, oh my goodness, I can't believe we've come to the end.
I know.
I'm going to miss you. Will you come again?
I'll come. Well, you're still stuck in the same office with
Oh my!
me, but I'll come back to the podcast anytime.
Oh, bless you.
I know we've had a whistle stop talk, but it's been nice to give at least a flavour of each of our clauses. We'll understand at least. Okay, this is what it's looking at in a wide term.
Yes, and really, it's not a scary system. There's lots of terminology, and the whole idea of the ISO for Growth podcast is to really simplify it as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And I hope we've done that. I hope we've done that for our listeners.
Hopefully, yeah. And you know, we love working with people of all different backgrounds and industries.
Yes.
We love doing what we do.
Yes.
And, you know, for anybody that's got more questions, come speak to us. Because we love talking about ISO.
Yes, we do.
It's a bit geeky, but we don't mind.
Oh, bless. Well, thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. And, you know, especially because you've been out auditing today, and I know it's, you've had a really busy day.
Jenny.
But yeah, thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.
Bye-bye.